Hey guys, I want to thank you for your interest in the tax forms that I put together on the spreadsheets. This is an excellent tool for those that need to do their taxes and to itemize all their deductions for any of their acting work and expenses. There'll be several videos. I will post each one. Each one's a little course in each one of these sheets that is included. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to call me. So let's get started. One of the things I find is easiest to do is to create a folder for taxes. So I have a tax folder created up, and since this is for the taxes for 2015, you can label the program whatever you want. For purposes of this, I created latest tax sheet. So I actually have that open right now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do two of them side by side so that you can see how each one of these works. Okay, so when you get the spreadsheet, I know it looks overwhelming when you're looking at the instructions page, but trust me, when you look through it, it's actually very simple. I have it broken down into several sheets. I believe there's 19 sheets all in all, and most of those are monthly sheets. So if you look down here, we have the tabs. The first page is the instructions. It goes through a bit of an introduction, why to use the book, some best practices, and a breakdown of why things are done a certain way. The next sheet I have is a vehicle worksheet. This is excellent if you do a lot of commuting or if you do work where you're driving to and from any of your acting gigs. Now keep in mind, commuting is not tax deductible, but certain things related to acting is deductible. The next tabs are for each particular month of the year. You pick any one of these months and it breaks it down into the days of the month on the left hand side, the purposes, the type of transportation, the type of income you earned, the mileage that you're using for each trip, promotional agent examples, repairs on equipment purchases, wardrobe purchases. So I pretty much got everything covered going all the way across the board on what expenses is and income is for each particular month, as well as additional details, other commuting calculators to help you break down your cable bill, your phone bill, and your long distance bill as well. But we'll go into that in another video. At the end, you'll see the year-end summary. A year-end summary summarizes everything you've done through the course of the year, and it also allows you to validate at the end of the year what you've inputted during the course of the year. We have an entertainment worksheet. This is good to keep track of your entertainment expenses, whether you have a dinner with a client, your agent, etc. The income worksheet, which will mostly be used at the end of the year. You'll be able to track your W-2 wages, your non-W-2 wages, your income for your 1099s, and you'll have a schedule of expenses. Everything you input will be brought over to the schedule of expenses worksheet, where you'll be able to take this direct information and put it into your tax forms. An equipment expense worksheet, which is used for any equipment you purchase over $500 and you have to depreciate it. And then the last page is a 2106 form. One of the forms that you'll be filling out is a 2106, and this just breaks down all your inputs to make it a little bit easier on how you're going to be doing the inputs at the end of the year. So that's it. In the next video, we'll be starting off with the introduction. I'll go through some of the instructions as well as the vehicle worksheet. Okay guys, so welcome back. I just want to go over the next section, which is the instructions. And when you're looking at it, it does seem a little intimidating, but I wanted to make sure I covered everything so that way you can refer back to it and answer any of your questions. And what I had done is I broke it down into individual sections for the pages that you're working on. So let's get started. Feel free if you want to look at the introduction. It tells you a little bit about myself, not much, but it also explains why you want to do this, because as an actor you are a business, and as a business you need to keep records of everything, especially if you're going to itemize at the end of the year. Now, you might have another job, you may not have another job. Acting might be your entire profession. So all the expenses that you incur for that business are pretty much deductible. And that explains it here and why you want to use the workbook. In the workbook there's 19 sheets. 12 of those are monthly sheets where you're going to be recording all the things that you do during the course of a day. For instance, if you're going to be working on Gotham, you're going to record the mileage, the location. Is it a W-2 job? Is it a 1099 job? Did you purchase wardrobe for that particular thing? And also, you're going to be recording things like if you do go out to purchase wardrobe. One of the things that I can't stress enough is to keep accurate records, and one of my other videos will show you some suggestions for keeping those records. The monthly sheets are for immediate reporting. You can enter the information whenever you want, but my suggestion is as soon as you're done working or doing an activity related to the business, you want to record it here as quickly as possible. I'll break down each sheet as we go through the entries and how to start out on the sheets. Right here, the daily reporting, which is January through December, and how you're going to be looking at each one of these things and how you're going to enter them. One of the best practices that I had, and I'll show you, is recording your job information on the back of your vouchers. At the bottom of each page there is a calculator for mileage, as well as phone, cable, and long distance. But I want to talk about the mileage here real quick. It's one of the more confusing items regarding taxes, and just so you know straight up, you cannot deduct any commuting mileage, but there are specific things where you are allowed to deduct them. So what I had done is, right here, to keep it simple, all mileage is deductible except commuting directly to or from a job, an acting gig, your day job, etc., within your metropolitan area. So under each one of these scenarios, and I put 11 of them, okay, it will tell you whether it's deductible or not, and that helps when you're doing your taxes and your mileage and vehicle worksheets. Okay, so now when you're working on the mileage, there's a suggestion that I make. For some people might have one vehicle, some have several vehicles. I would suggest getting a date book and keeping a date book in each one of your vehicles. And if you're using the vehicle and you're commuting to and from work each day, enter that. You don't have to do a lot of information. You can just sit there and write on, say, January 1st, drove to work. When you're done work, if you ran an errand for acting or your business, went from work to Juniors to purchase a uniform. And you can just put the information down. You don't have to go into specifics about the address, because you can always go home, look up the address, and check out the mileage with one of the online mappings. Another option is using OneNote, which I'll go into later, as well as some applications that you can put on your cell phone, such as Miles Tracker. And here's some suggestion, for example, of how it would be entered in a book, and also, again, up here, scenarios on how each thing is deducted. When you're doing the mileage, commuting, charity, medical miles, parking tolls and fares, all of that is deductible. I've made space in this workbook for you to keep track of all that information, and in the summary pages it will have all your charitable and medical mileage that you worked as well. On the bottom of each page there's a cable calculator. Some people have their cable bundled with internet and phone. I have a way to break down the cable bill, because believe it or not, your cable bill is deductible. Your internet's deductible. Your phone is not, but some of the accessories or some of the items that come with your phone might be deductible. And speaking of phone, a cell phone. Your cell phone, if it's pretty much your business phone, it's easy, you can just deduct the whole thing. But it's one of the most complicated things and tedious jobs to do. And you got to do it each month, because if you wait to the end of the year, you're just going to be like backed up beyond all belief. You want to do this as soon as it comes in. So what I did is at the bottom of each page, I put in a phone calculator and just go back to this and refer to how it's done. And when we do a practice phone calculator, I'm going to show you how I do it, so that way you get an idea of how it can be done. You'll notice that here in the instructions I put best practices. Take a look at the best practices. These are some ideas that I've used to help minimize all the headaches that I get involved with. There's also a long distance calculator on the end of each page. It's fairly simple. Now, on each one of these monthly pages, there's a breakdown of the columns. You have the purpose, the address, job errand, gross wages, allowances that you receive as separate payments. Then, of course, there's the expenses, mileage expenses, parking, tolls, and local fares, rental equipment, some wardrobe maintenance, interest, legal fees, services rendered. These are all items that have been broken down to fit on a Schedule C. Now, when you're doing your taxes, there are several forms that you're going to be working with, but the Schedule C is one of the bigger ones you're going to be using if you have your own business. So you have all these broken down in each category, and what I had done is for each different category for the expense, I wrote down whether it's a job-specific or not job-specific, being both. And what I mean by that is some jobs are W-2 jobs, some of them might be 1099 jobs. Some of them might fall into the category of both. And it's important that you mark each job, whether it's a 1099 or a W-2, or whether the purpose is used for both, or whether the purpose is used for either one of those. Because at the end of the year, it's going to make a difference on which forms you're using and how you input the information. You'll also find a yearly summary page, which breaks down everything at the end of the year into categories. An income worksheet, which helps you break down the income that you're earning, which is the W-2 forms and a collection of your 1099s. The schedule of expenses, which comes directly off of your input. So again, I can't emphasize enough, make sure your inputs are correct, make sure you're double checking everything. Entertainment, and again, a helpful page, the 2106. And one of the items that you want to go to is that helps you out is for the meals, and I'll just touch the base with this real quick. The end of the meals will go into it, but here's a link. When you click on this, it will bring you to an IRS page, like the gas page, which can help you out with the per diems. So next step, what we're going to do is we're actually going to start a worksheet. So we'll get out of this information page, and what we'll do is we'll go down and start your year. So we're going to click on the vehicle worksheet page. The reason why I put the vehicle worksheet page in the front is because it's the first thing you need to do at the beginning of the year, January 1st. So we're just going to go along here, and at the very top, and you'll notice that all the cells that have input are highlighted. Okay. Anything that you can't touch, I've locked out, and some of them, for instance right here, some of them have a drop down where you have to choose one of the answers, and it's very important that you choose the answer for that particular thing. If it doesn't require an answer, don't choose anything. So we'll just start this off. Now what do you want to do at the beginning of the year? You want to enter your name, put in your social security number, and a tax year, which is, for instance, 2015. And the reason why you want to do this first thing is because it's very important that you record the mileage on your vehicle. So whatever your primary vehicle is that you know that you're going to be using for commuting back and forth to your acting jobs or doing your errands, that will be your primary vehicle. I've listed a total of 6 vehicles. On a Schedule C and a 2106, I only have enough for 2 vehicles, but I added the other vehicles because some people might use multiple vehicles for picture cars. So we'll just pretend that we had 100,000 miles at the beginning of the year. And we're going to put a description of the vehicle. You'll want to fill out this information. This information purposes: do you own or lease a vehicle? It's owned. What date did you start using the vehicle for business? If you used it prior, I might say that I started using it in January 1st, 2012. Notice right here that it's negative 100,000 miles, because at the end of the year when we enter mileage, for instance, if it was 120,000, we'll show that I used 20,000 miles. We'll just clear that out. You also might notice that as I input items into the shaded spaces, once it has an item in it, it converts to a green cell. That lets you know that information is put in there. I'm going to show you something. Sometimes you don't input anything. If you put a space in there, it's going to pop up as a green cell. And the reason why I put that warning there, it's considered a warning, is because if there's a space in there, or even a hyphen of anything that will not show up there, it's going to affect the calculations. For instance, right here, I'll take that back out again and I'll put a space. Notice the negative 100,000. If I put a space in there and hit the enter key, it turns green, but now the calculation is wrong. If you see an empty space that's highlighted in green, that means there's something in there. So what you want to do is click on it and do a backspace, or if you click on it and right click on it, clear the contents, and you can see that the formula worked again. Down here, if you own this vehicle, did you use a method in the first year, this method in the first year of business? That's going to be yes. And if you lease a vehicle, have you used this method every year to lease? And that's only if you lease it, yes or no. So you'll just leave it blank. Now here's the reason why you want to fill this information out. This is pretty much for you. Now there's two methods for mileage and vehicle expenses. One is that you're going to deduct the actual expense. Now this means that when you purchase gasoline, you got to save the receipt. When you use the tolls, you got to save the receipt. When you go to mileage, travel miles, you have to record every single mile. If you get repairs done on your vehicle, you have to save the receipts. If you get an oil change, you save the receipts. Doing all of that is extenuating. Now, it works great if you have a particular vehicle. Say you had a food truck, and you purchased a food truck and you're doing the maintenance on the food truck. That works fine. But when you're using a vehicle for both personal and business, it's best to use what's called the standard mileage rate. The standard mileage rate, what it does is it computes all your business-related travel, and each year the government comes out with a rate per mile. For instance, this year it's 57.5 cents per mile. So if you traveled 10 miles, you would get $5.75 that you'd be able to deduct off your bill at the end of the your taxes at the end of the year. That's my suggestion, is using the standard mileage rate. It saves a lot of headaches, especially if you use multiple vehicles. And you'll notice that I had this set up exactly the same for every single vehicle, right? All 5 and 6 vehicles, however many vehicles you happen to have. You'll also notice that on the bottom here, we have the rate. Now you can look up the rate. Just go to the irs.gov. They'll show you the current rate. The current rate is 57.5 cents. So I'm going to put that in there right now. So right now, my vehicle, and I only have the one vehicle that I use for picture cars. If I happen to sell the vehicle, you'll want to put the ending mileage right here. So if I sold it in October, put it here, and then with the new vehicle, you would start it off as vehicle 2 and continue on with that. Or if you happen to have a second vehicle. And that pretty much covers the main page of vehicle worksheet page. And what we're going to do is start going into the monthly tabs. And to get into that, I'm going to start pulling up some information, and we're going to start that off in another video.